What do zombies, Motaba, and a guzzling wasteland have in common? They're just like COVID-19.
Join us for Apocalypse Now as we review some of the best and worst pandemic, post-apocalyptic, and general end-of-the-world films and relate them to today's current situation.
Give us a listen. We might just save your life. And then share it with a friend. Or don't. Whatever. It's not the end of the world.
Join Scott
And Callum.
And Dez every Friday for a new episode
of Apocalypse Now, 'cause you never know.
Welcome to that spiritual, actual, factual answers to questions you're asking. You find them inside you, recite you, reciting the records of cash. We laughing, we drafting, the passion we vary. It's time for that comedy, dramedy, all of the fanciest, catchiest acronyms. Listeners, listen, we traveling, consciousness always unraveling. The reading you're having is mapping you back to your natural habitat. Abracadabra, it's magicless, passionate. To top it off, the host, all the classiest. Now, what were you asking for? All of the answers, what? All the answers.
I love it. Maybe if I could request it, I'd actually love to chit chat with you the tiniest, briefest amount, Cass, first.
Yeah.
And then we'll introduce Rami.
Great.
Gosh, is that necessary? No, actually, we don't even have to do that. I'm just talking. I'm a person. I'm gonna say words now. Hi guys, we're doing a podcast. I am coming off of, here we are. Oh my God. Sometimes when you work as a professional healer, you deal with people who are very not healed. And as a result, charged, angry, a lot of trauma energy gets sent at you. And then you have that with you in the morning. And sometimes that you is me. And it's so freaking intense sometimes. And, you know, there's this elaborate process constantly of checking myself and looking at like, okay, what's my part in this? And what did I do to bring this about? And do I have a part in it? And then there's, and like a good percentage of the time, it's like, yeah, okay, here's my part and I own it. You're right. And then there's peace and love happens. And then there's like this little percentage where you just have a crazy fucking maniac person who's really sick and not ready to like deal with a human at all, who's in your healing practice. And I have to ask them, I'm gonna talk about myself. I have to ask them to leave. I have to say, hey, this doesn't actually feel like a fit and we're gonna have to end. I won't be seeing you anymore, because the person is so not able to, is so unaware of their own, what they're being and what they're doing and bringing to the conversation, that there's no way to proceed without just getting an onslaught of attack all the time. Anyway, so I had to do that just now and it was incredibly uncomfortable. I don't like doing it. I have a sensitive inner soul despite my strong outer style. And it's wildly uncomfortable. So just walking into this, shaking that off. That being said, it's like I can't think of a more juicy guest to have on our podcast than who we have today, which is Rami. How do you pronounce your last name, Rami?
Well, it's Haitian, and the American way that I pronounce it is Margran. And if you want to be a little more Haitian, you could say Margran. And if you want to be more French, you can go Margron. But it's like, and then I think my mom pronounced it Margran. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Margran.
God. So I'm deep inside the book White Fragility, and I'm just like, I don't know. Anyway, my point being, I don't think I will correctly do any of those things. And so I will just
Margran.
But gosh, but then you got to make it for me, the white lady, so I can fucking say it in a way. My mind is blowing up. It's good. It's good that this is happening, and it's a lot, and it's good. But the reason I'm saying it's so juicy to have you here, A, Cassidy's longtime life partner. What? A lot of content there. B, the style of your dynamic that you guys have. Unique and amazing, fascinating and dynamic. 3, pronouns, different. New choice than what I make. Not, a lot of content there. I'm a white lady. You're not as much of a white lady, but I don't know. Content. I think we're gonna be here for a long time. And Cassidy, what would you? Hi.
I'm just happy to be a conduit to having amazing people come on this medium and both share themselves and get wisdom and or healing from the all that is. So yeah, I'm excited, and I'm gonna now say hi, Rami, who is in another part of the house than I am right now as we record this episode.
I was wondering if you guys going to do it in the same room, but no.
No, we don't do it that way.
Yeah. What room are you in, Rami? And hi, welcome.
Well, hello. I'm in the living room.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Oh,
It's
yeah.
a very large room with lots of things in the background there.
Got you. Are you going to get like walkthroughs by roommates?
It's not that likely. It's possible. I'm not going to say no.
There's a world in which it could occur.
That's right. Like the dog on your shoulders, which I've heard so much about in the podcast. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, yay. I hope she does make an appearance. She's dead to sleep right now. You know, having you here, it's a treat to have you. Thank you for coming, Rami. My personal inclination is like to talk about your guys' relationship dynamics, because I've for so many years heard through Cassidy's lens about that. And I feel also like there's so much beautiful, different paradigms that you guys function through that I feel like people listening could benefit from hearing about, understanding more about, knowing exist. I don't know, the intricacies, the ins and it's so honoring and subtle and complex and deep what you guys do just in terms of your relational dynamics that personally I find that topic pretty damn interesting, and I'd love to hear kind of your voice about it.
Okay.
If that feels like something safe and decent to talk about in public.
I think I'm okay to talk about it. Another month, another time, I might not have wanted to out myself as even having some kind of partnership, but where we're at right now, I feel okay outing myself that way.
Okay, so I want to get clear. So this is already, we're in it. I love this. So for you, the part that would have been outing in the past would have been the fact that you were in a partnership. Is that correct?
Yeah, okay. So it depends. So here's the thing, Katie. So so Cassidy and I became a couple in when 98?
Pretty much.
Like a long fucking time ago.
Yeah.
So in that time, we were a couple, although we weren't monogamous.
Okay.
And then at a certain point, 5 years later, we decided to get married. Why? People always would ask me, why? Why did you decide that based on what I try to understand from this relationship you have? Because we were never a monogamous couple, and we really supported each other in living separate lives more and more as the years went on. We used to live more connected lives, but at a certain point, and then at one point we had a 3-person relationship for 2 years, which was a solid relationship. For the last few years, we have been acting. God, on our 10th wedding anniversary, we made a very specific public statement, because nothing else was working, that we told the world that we had broken up.
Okay.
On our 10th, I don't know, maybe I'm skipping too much information.
Wait,
because
I didn't remember that it was actually like on our 10th anniversary.
It happened to be on our 10th wedding. We had the conversation about on our 10th wedding anniversary. We made the official statement on Facebook, because that's the only thing people pay attention to, and told people that we had broken up because no one understood our relationship, and they were making assumptions about us that were getting in our way, like making it harder for us to date, especially Cassidy, because he's, this straight guy. And so women were thinking he was sleazy.
For being in an open relationship. Oh, it's okay with your wife, air quotes, which is such a stupid trope.
Yeah, not only was it okay, but I was being like, please find someone out there. Like, leave me alone. Go away.
Oh, no.
And then here was Cass. Like, I had no problem finding people.
Oh, no.
Rami's fighting him off with a stick.
That's not always the case, but occasionally, like, there were a couple spurts. But like, Cassidy was really struggling, especially getting older, even though he still looks very young, but like getting older and being this straight guy or straightish guy.
Straight passing.
Okay, wait. I have a question though, because I have 70 questions. But the first one is, you said you were starting to tell us the story of like people said to you, why even get married if I know what you know? So why we didn't get the why did that happen?
Why did we get married?
Cassidy's face for the listening audience is like, eek.
No, it was more like, God, I guess we have an answer to that.
Oh, okay.
Jump in, Cass, if you have a clarification. So what I remember about our discussion was kind of like,
we should get married.
should,
Want to get
should
married?
we? What do you think? What do you think?
Sure.
And
Why
then
not?
and it was basically the reason why we did it is because we recognized that marriage is for your community in our opinion.
Okay.
That a wedding is for your community,
Okay.
just like a funeral is. And it is, and our wedding was we had different communities, and some of them didn't interact with each other at all, and some of them did. And we had this really cool thing. We got along really, really well. We had a lot of fun. We worked together so well. We had never had an argument. We just had this really cool partnership. And we just kind of were like, we feel ready to tell people about it.
And this was how many years in?
5
years in.
And I didn't, when we were having these discussions, I didn't realize we were going to get legally married. And at a certain point I was like, did you want to get legally married? And Cass was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And then we did.
Mainly because I, with very little research, I was like, it makes things easier when you're doing shit.
Yeah.
Like
it does.
Legal, just taxes or emergency stuff and whatever, property.
And wait, I want to add that people have many times asked me why we don't get a divorce.
Yeah.
And the reason why, since we, live separate lives, separate coasts, Cassidy was even kind of recently in a monogamous committed relationship for, I don't know, how long, a year?
About 9 months.
Yep.
And, so like there's nothing that looked like a married couple to anyone, right? So they'd be like, why don't you get a divorce?
Yeah.
And, we totally have discussed it many times and we might still discuss it, but like, I can say for myself, as far as legal stuff, like I have no brothers and sisters. I have no living parents. I have like no one else Cassidy is my legal family and my best friend. And so like, why would I legally unconnect myself from him when it's actually very helpful to have legal family?
God, that makes me want to die. I'm like want to sob. It's so beautiful for 8 reasons I can tell you about, but that's so beautiful to me.
That's interesting. That's nice.
Because, okay, let me explain why, if I may. I come from a family I'm an only child. My parents got divorced when I was 18. My dad was an alcoholic my entire childhood, got sober when I was 18, left my mom when I was 18, moved across the country when I was 18. I went to college when I was 18. And then he built like a whole new family. My mother and my relationship completely disintegrated over the next 15 years. It took a long time and was quite a process. But one of the healthiest choices I've ever made in my life is to no longer have any ties to my mother, which is very deep. I mean, I say it like, oh, no big deal. It's very deep. There's a lot of healing that has to go into, constant, it comes up all the time, right? So I'm disassociated from her cousins and family. The grandparents are all dead. My dad's parents are all dead. There's nobody. There's nobody. And for a long time, I loved that autonomy and that freedom. Being an 8 Enneagram, I was like, ain't nobody on my jock. I'm good. But, growing into a little bit more open and evolved 8, it's like, oh, right, humans that you're deeply connected to for a long time, that you have history with, that you have shared stuff, that if I die or I'm in the hospital, Cassidy's going to the hospital. If you have a knee surgery, it's happening. Family. Because for me, it's family has just never been a thing that worked or felt good ever one time. So I hear stories like that, and it's so beautiful to me that you're like, but why would I let go of a thing? And I'm like, you shouldn't let go of it.
I have to say though, that for a while, I was thinking kind of recently, in the last year, that we needed to get a divorce because I thought that perhaps we were hanging on to each other in a way that wasn't helpful to wherever each of us needed to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that we both like comfort, and divorces are so uncomfortable, right? So even
Yeah.
when they're totally amicable, they're expensive, they're whatever. I don't know. I've never done it.
Yeah.
But so recently in my life, I've been sort of struggling with the fact that, oh, we should probably do this. I should probably do this. But then I have to say that we have really, like, so for people listening, I live in New York, but I am here sheltering in place in Oakland, California, in the house that my mother left me when she passed away. Cassidy lives in that house with 5 other people. I'm sheltering in place, so 6 other people right now. And since I arrived here right before sheltering in place, our relationship has just been so wonderful and easy, and without some of the sticking points, energetic sticking points that I'd been feeling before that. But like something has shifted. Cass is nodding. Do you want
Yeah.
to-
I'm just mostly here to listen today, but I'll chime in at some point.
Okay.
Do you find that to be true, Cassidy? That the thing about that the relationship feels really
Yeah,
functional and great right now?
it was kind of immediate too. Like Rami got here by necessity because of needing knee surgery, and then was forced to stay here by
Okay.
circumstance of COVID. And so, originally it was like, cool, of course, this is where you should come to get surgery and get support, by me and by our whole community, our whole household. People are going to take care of you if you need it and blah, blah, blah. But then it became a much more intense version of that almost immediately.
Huh.
And we're like, oh, this is happening. You're here now. So we are in each other's space again, in a way that we haven't been for years. It's been a lot of visiting and like, I'll go to New York for a week, or Rami will come here and do a show and be here for a month. And even then there would be like this sort of energetic, like, we're fine, we're doing good. We really treat each other well almost all the time. We're really kind people to each other. We don't fight, but there would still be the sort of like, okay, hi, things that were challenging. But now there's something just qualitatively different. And we still haven't really put too much of a pin on it, of what it is necessarily. Maybe some of the energetic demands we've made on each other in the past and have made peace with, like as soon as we remove those demands, now I am debt free. It's a lot of the stuff you talk about, Katie, with like releasing yourself from bonds,
Right.
like spiritual bonds or promises you've made that you shouldn't have to keep.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of that has come about where we're just like, oh, all I want to expect from you is love. And that's it. Like simple. Maybe. I don't know. That's theory.
I have 2 things. One is a question and one is a thing you're reminding me of, a little story. But the question would be something like, can you put more of a finger on what the energetic tensions were? Because you said we haven't put a finger on what has dissolved or what that is, but it sounds like what you're saying is that the tensions maybe that existed before when you would visit came from, as you're saying, like maybe unconscious or subtle expectations, or right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Some of the answers are probably too personal. So we're going to just say like, yes, that is true.
Okay.
Without describing the direct narrative.
Okay, got it. That makes it so much more alluring.
Yeah.
That's great.
Do you agree, Rami? I'm fine.
That they're too personal?
Yeah.
Because they're, I guess.
I don't care.
I mean, I would say that the last time we saw each other, right before I arrived here, Cass came to see me in the show I was doing in San Diego, and I didn't really want him there, and I was acting very nice, and we were getting along,
But there was a tension to it.
And we had a big uncomfortable talk like we don't usually have, because neither one of us likes being uncomfortable, and it was really hard. And I did in the talk at one point, I really pretty much was saying that we should probably consider getting a divorce, and Cassidy like stood up to me and was like, no. Which he doesn't usually stand up to me. That's not true. It's not true.
No, it's kind of true.
It's kind of true. Yeah. And also like, what? We always said if it felt like we would do it. Like from like 20 years ago, we said that, but all of a sudden
Yeah.
you're saying, you're saying no, strongly no. And then that made me go like, wow, okay, all right. Well, then that's something to think about. And then we talked more, and then we like cleared a couple things in this big uncomfortable conversation that I think have really helped.
Oh, and so when you said you didn't want him there,
Mhm.
was it because of the uncomfortable things that you ended up talking about that then changed things? The talk changed things, but was it those uncomfortable things that you didn't want him there? That's why, or was it other reasons? Or is it too hard to say?
Oh, that's an interesting. Wow. I mean, I think we need to just say what the things are because they're not like what's like they're not
Who
that
cares?
personal. Who cares?
Yeah.
It was just like our sexual dynamic was. Do you want to explain it, Cass?
Just challenging. We have a sexual dynamic that is fraught with back and forth, like expectation versus demand versus desire, which an expectation diminishes desire, or
Right.
and as a result, blocks come up way farther back coming from me, and then more recently coming from Rami, and then just like so, and then those become so present that when they, even if they're not activated, like I am demanding something, even if they're passive, they feel like they're present. And
Yeah.
as a result, they dirty the water between us.
Interesting.
Do you agree with that description, Rami?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and from my point of view, it's so hard to say. It's really hard to say this. Is
And we're
that
doing
in
it publicly.
Yeah, fuck. Talk about outing myself. Jesus.
I know.
Um,
I know. I support you in saying or not saying whatever you need to say or not say. And this is so fucking useful for people. Like I'm hearing the audience be like, thank you, tell me more. Yes. But like just briefly to give you a sense of it. And this is not to talk you into anything, but this is just for context. Like how many people I know in my healing business or just as recovering people or just people who like wouldn't ever have any of these conversations ever. And they go their whole fucking marriage not talking, or like they start to talk, but their version of what talking is like, sometimes you irritate me. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? What's happening? And then 6 months go by before they talk again. So already everything we've said, everything you guys have said is so honoring of what from my point of view is required for a relationship to exist at all. It's so honoring of that, of what the bond between people requires, aka lots of communication and honesty and vulnerability, that to me I'm just like I can hear the hearts of the people sitting on the edge of their seat like, what did you do? Because when it comes to sex, that's where most people just go, okay, it's hard, I'm out. Or like, okay, it's hard, we'll just never talk about it again and just be miserable but never deal with it. So what you guys are doing is so healing for the people.
Yeah. I mean, and on that note, and that little soapbox, I have never understood why, cheating, I'm saying with quotes around it, why when someone cheats in a traditional monogamous relationship, that means the end, period. Not when someone is mean or when someone is abusive or but for some reason,
Right.
Everything that movies and television have always told me, which was always so confusing, was that sex is the hard line. If that part is, if deceit happens there, it's a full stop to the relationship, as opposed to just all the unhealthy things that exist. Anyway,
Yes.
but that's not.
I think sex is if I may, it's part of maybe I'm getting weirdly political, but it is part of the sort of ownership reality. It's like it's the ownership transactional. It's the property based problem with our whole fucking society. There's many other problems, but the idea that sex, like if you touch another person's genitals,
right,
you have broken now they got something of mine. That other person took product away from me, took something I own away from me. And that is just like, and so like the betrayal is one of, you gave away our property. Our sex is our property.
Property. property.
I don't know. That was just a thought that came through based on what you were saying, Rami.
Yeah, but what I get from that that I like is that, it's like abundance versus lack mentality,
Yes.
right?
Zero
So
sum.
right, like a zero sum thing. It's like if you live in an abundant mentality, there's no losing. It's just more love, more joy, whatever. Now I know everyone's got. I support monogamous relationships as well. People are all individuals and need different things, and I am not trying to tell people if it's not right for them. But shit, what was I about to say?
But that you get more. It's more love. It's more. It's not.
Yeah, there's no reason to think of it as a zero sum game. That's a lack mentality.
Remind me what zero sum means again.
It means if you win, I lose.
Okay.
So
If you gain, mine goes down.
Okay.
Right. As opposed to living in abundance where more is more.
Yeah.
More breeds more.
Okay. Now here's where I love this because Cass, the way you framed it, I have a question for the way you framed it, right? I'm still not tracking exactly what you mean when you say about the property. I want to understand, but I don't get it yet. In the meantime, I wonder about this idea. Like, one of the framings I've been given is like with the cheating thing is like, there's an emotional container created between two human hearts. Literally, well, oh boy. So there's two humans, each have a heart. Then there's the idea that like the relationship between the two humans, let's call that like a third energy or a third entity, right? Then there's the container within which that third entity is existing. And the container is created by the trust and the love and the respect between the two individual entities that created the third entity in the first place. Okay. So then the concept would be that some people put forth would be when you go outside of that container, when you go to another entity outside the bubble or the container, you break the edges of that container, as it were. And in so doing, the trust and the respect that built the container in the first place go away or are broken or injured for a second. So now you at minimum have all this talking and processing to do about breaking the container. And then at maximum, you have to be like, there's a lot of grieving around now. The container's broken because the container, I'm just trying to track here, because the container takes on an energy of its own as well that the two hearts are actually aware of. In other words, like there's an idea that like energetically the hearts merge in a marriage or a love union thing. And then the container of the connection of the two hearts energetically is like a thing that you feel it if someone comes and pierces it. And you feel it if you pierce it. And it feels like pain. Now, so that's the framing I've lived with in my head in terms of like when a container is broken, blah, blah, blah. However, I'm a person who is a little more flexible about that container than the average Joe is. Like I can have a bubble that expands or breaks and rebuilds just fine or la la la. But other people like, break my container, we're done. So I'm wondering from your guys' perspective, like how does the container notion relate to or resonate for you in comparison to, I guess, or relation to the property idea? Property, container, different metaphors. Do they seem like we're talking about the same thing or are we talking about something different?
I mean, just because I brought up that image, I think I'm applying, I don't think they're like kind of different discussions. One is you're talking about that is one way of breaking the container is through, cheating, let's say sexual cheating. But why is that one the most important is what I'm responding to. So like there's plenty of ways to break that container. There's 100 ways one could injure the,
This was also the point I was making is that the other ones, there's room to negotiate with the other ones. And I think the other ones are worse. Some of the other ones as far as like, abuse and meanness. For example, or like deceit about things that don't have to do with sex.
Okay. So we're agreeing
not actual partnership. That's,
I see.
Like there's a million ways to not have a good relation. There's a million reasons to break up, but for some reason the sex one is the one that like is.
But
and you can cheat in a non-monogamous relationship. It's all about what you're talking about. You talk about trust and agreements, right?
Okay.
You could still break our agreement based on our version of non-monogamy.
Okay.
in other ways.
Of
So
course.
injuries are injuries, and yes, they should be dealt with, and no one should do things that are counter to the people that you're in that agreement and relationship with.
Right.
But why is
Okay.
this particular one
I get it.
the most important?
I know. Well, so, yep. Excellent question. Don't have an answer. Very curious about it myself. And so, but just to be clear, so we're agreeing that there's a thing called, there's agreements, and then the contexts they create, and then the breaking of a container happens when the agreement is broken. No matter what that's about, sex or flowers or chickens, whatever it's about. Okay. So, but help me with the property idea. What?
Oh, I was just applying that as one way of looking at the reason why people have jacked up the power of
The sex.
over other things. That internal struggles, things that happen between the two of you that are awful, but don't involve something outside, somehow don't take on as much importance. If you're cruel to me or mean to me or awful to me inside of our container.
What is the property? Who's the property in this scenario, metaphorically speaking?
Metaphorically speaking, we are each other's property.
Oh,
and
I
that
see.
is sealed in the sexual, that's like the sexual signature.
Or
Ugh.
the genitals are each other's property.
Yeah, our genitals are, that's kind of what it is. Like you touch you touched their genitals. You have broken like that is a shattered, you were shredding the contract because that's like you erased the signature.
Yeah.
Wait, what? You erased to the signature?
You erased the signature by touching someone
Oh,
else.
you
I don't know.
erased this. Okay.
On the contract of our genital property. Wow, got lost. Don't have to continue on this.
I mean,
path.
like this, the way that the conversation is going right now is not like the important stuff about.
Oh,
I think we've gotten lost in the minutia.
Yeah.
what's the important stuff?
Okay. Well,
Because I guess for me, that was pretty important to understand
Oh,
what
yeah?
you meant by property. I had
mean,
no
that
idea
was
what you were saying.
That I got to be honest. The reason I don't feel like it's that important is because it's just an idea I threw out there
I see.
in my
never
head right
thrown out
now.
before. That was like a new, like little riff.
Yeah, that's not like part of our systemic approach.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so now I get you. So, but what I do want to, so what is the important stuff? The important stuff is I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, so I'm just waiting for you guys to talk.
Okay.
Let's just take it up a couple levels again. We were just talking about the uniqueness of our agreements and how we have approached life.
And
Maybe?
so, sure. And so okay, could we talk about what the agreements are now?
So here's the thing, is a thing. Cassidy and I both happen to be these like laid back, non-jealous type people who are, and notice we haven't even used the word polyamorous in this conversation yet, which is technically what we are, but it's too limited even to say that it's not, and we don't really identify that.
Yeah.
We don't really put a label on, I don't like to put a label on us each as individuals or as what we might have together. But when people are in relationships and they have other partners, it's common that they need very specific agreements in order for that to work.
Right.
But me and Cassidy are not your average poly folks. Okay. So we do not really I couldn't tell you what our agreements are. I mean, I'm sure we could sit down, the two of us could sit down and we could be like, what do you think? Yep. What do you think? Yeah, I think that. Okay. Well, so like the way that Cassidy and I live our lives is we go like, hey, what do you think about this? Yeah, that seems okay. All right, great.
Yeah.
And then we move on to the next thing. We don't pre-arrange any agreements and like we don't have like a contract.
Okay.
And now what happens sometimes is that then makes us stumble into a pain point.
Right.
And then sometimes we won't deal with that pain point for a long time. And then finally one of us will have to say, hey, turns out I don't like this, or I need to at least address this. I'm not going to say stop doing that. I'm just going to say this hurts or this is challenging for me.
Yes.
So yeah. And there have been a few times through the years where it'd be like, here's a more innocuous example. Rami's a very independent person and they, they don't like to report to anybody.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But there was a time when Rami would be out, for, going out and hanging out with folks and then not come home until 3, 4 in the morning for, great, fucking awesome. But my, I don't know, fraternal, my care sense would get activated. My fear would get activated, not out of jealousy, but out of like, are they okay?
Right.
And so I had to just say, hey, Rami, if you're not going to come home, awesome. Just shoot me a text in the middle of the night. So when I wake up at 3 a.m., notice you're not there.
Yeah.
I can know that. But we hadn't pre-created that agreement.
I get you.
It finally arose. It was a minor one, and then Rami was like, I don't know. What was your reaction to that?
Oh, I hope it was okay.
Yeah, it was just, but also I think it was like, oh, that hadn't occurred to me because that's not how your brain is operating. Like you're not going to have that reaction to me being out all night. So why, until I said something.
Yeah. I have another question, which is like, I know the littlest bit about Cassidy's family, and I know the nothingest bit about your family, Rami, but I'm wondering, what do each of you attribute your openness, flexibility, receptivity, non-jealousness? Did you sort of wake up that way when you were 8? Like you just came into life that way? Was it nurtured in you? Was it cultural? Was it like, what do you have any sense of like, yeah.
I definitely have an answer for you. I think it was both nature and nurture. So I think that my little essence that came out into this world was already like that, which is why which is probably why I had such a good relationship with my father. This is a side note, but if I had had more need for certain things, maybe I wouldn't have had it. But like, because I didn't ask anything of my dad, for example, because I was so overly flexible, I was able to have this wonderful, idyllic relationship with him. Now, my mom was the most open-minded person I have yet to meet. She was just dope. She was fucking amazing.
Huh.
And if she was alive, I would say the parts of her that annoyed me. But since she's dead, she's just my God, So. But they were divorced before I was born, and they did a good ass job of never showing me their conflicts.
Huh.
So when I was a kid, they appeared to be friends from the time I can remember. Like they would be each other's date to see my little plays and dance performances and shit, Want to go see a kid's play?
Nobody.
And I know now that they probably had a lot of, conflict between them during that time, but I happily didn't really get to see it much. And then they had this period where when I was in my early 20s, they, for some reason, had this like renaissance in their relationship, and they became closer friends than ever. Perhaps even had a brief romance. Can't say for sure. Then when my mom was dying.
Yeah.
Woo,
I love it. Take your time. Take your time. Feel your feelings. I love you. That's what we do in this cast. We cried together.
when my mom was dying with cancer,
yeah,
my dad was here at her house every day. So this person that was they had divorced in, let's say, 72, 73, whenever, 73.
Yeah.
This person who could have been out of her life for all that time instead was, as she called him, her angel during that time.
Wow.
So that, I'm just saying that to say that like relationships look all different ways.
Yeah, man.
And commitments look all different ways.
Yeah.
Right. And support looks different. And also, you never know what the future is going to hold. If someone walks out of your life, you don't know that they're never coming back. You have to assume that, but you don't know. You don't know if your paths will come back together.
Yeah.
And so I have to say, so being raised by a single creative mother.
Yeah.
But seeing my father once a week my whole life, and then having them have a, pretty constructive relationship, pretty positive relationship, at least in front of me.
They stayed family.
Yeah. They didn't want to at the beginning at all.
Right.
That's why they got divorced. They were pissed. They really, if it wasn't for them having a child, which they didn't even want, if it wasn't for that, they would not, they were so mad at each other. They had to deal with each other because of me.
Yeah. Wow.
And wonderful things happened because of that. So,
I mean, see, this is why this is such a gift, this conversation, is because as you both know, but I'll just articulate it for people listening. So often what we do as humans is there's some narrative we've heard somewhere, culturally in the movies, where mom, dad, wherever, that ends a certain way. And then that becomes the narrative everybody's married to about when it starts like this, it has to end like that. And there's no other fucking options in the middle. It can't look any other way because one meme, and when I say memes, I'm meaning like mental idea that gets passed around that everybody picks up on before we had computer memes. So it's like your guys' individual abilities to not be married to or pinned down by the narratives that get created. It is the fact of your openness in that way allows for new narratives to come into being.
That's right.
But it's almost like you can't have a new narrative if your belief is, well, the narrative that exists is the narrative, the capital T narrative. It's like, no, it fucking isn't. It's a thing that happened. And one guy said words and now we all do that? Why? Anyway, so I love hearing and
we know that the narrative is 90% of all the narratives are fucking bullshit. We're seeing that right now. We're seeing people say, no, you told us one thing. You've insisted that it is this way. And it's a fucking lie. And we're going to burn your cities to let you know. That's a whole other discussion that we could have. But my point being that like these narratives, these memes, these frameworks are mostly bullshit.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I wanna own something here. Something it's like, fuck if I can remember at this point where I saw it, because I've been taking in so much information in the last 72 hours, honestly. Constant taking in of new, I don't know how to even say words right now about it, but just getting much more deeply educated about subtleties of white supremacy, the subtleties of how race is woven into the fabric of every fucking moment of my reality in the ways that I have not seen. I haven't had to see them because nobody's confronting me. Because why would, because racism, because me, and I mean, anyway, I could say 90 things, but the first thing is what you just said reminded me of a thing I saw that said, you've been telling us the narrative is, no, we're all pretty much post-racial except for that one occasional moment, but the opposite is true. No, racism is rampant and everywhere, every minute, and then every now and again, someone does something anti-racist. That's right. And when I read that, I just went, of fucking course that's what it is. Sorry, let me be clear. I first went, holy fuck. And then I went, of course, like real quick right after each other. Because when you look at actual reality, and this one book I'm reading, White Fragility, is articulating a lot of points about how white people not talking about race and being like, let's just not. Is its own form of like, you don't exist or matter. I'm not going to deal with all that icky stuff. In part because we don't want to step on toes and do it wrong and hurt people. But in part because we're fucking fragile and can't feel like we can't handle it. And it's, I don't know, I'm going to fall apart if I have to face my own part in this dynamic. Even that, the non-talking, the non-labeling, the non-ness of all of it is so damaging and it's so rampant. It's so every moment of every fabric of every moment that it is an anomaly when someone goes, hi, race is happening. We're going to name it and we're going to be cool. But we're going to this, that, you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like for white people, Cassidy, you look confused.
Just taking it in. Sorry.
That's a listening face.
Oh, got it. Just that, like, when I think about in my life, what I'm trying to say is like the moments where an anti-racist thing happens, that is the anomaly. We like to think as liberals that the anomaly is when a racist moment happens. But now that I'm getting better educated on what white supremacy, not the kind where you're burning flags and killing people and wearing hoods, but just general day-to-day white supremacy, which is everywhere all the time. A single moment where that is where the veil of that is lifted and somebody goes, or anti-racist action. That is the anomaly. And the fact that that's the anomaly is so the opposite perspective that we white liberal folks live with and believe we're functioning from, that an important and devastating veil that finally maybe is getting lifted. It is for me. I don't know.
It definitely is for more white people lately. Like,
Yeah.
there has been, it seems to me like it's been sort of an exponential increase with still plenty of, like optics and lip service. Like, just my Facebook posts today have been about like the theater companies who have perpetrated so much systematic racism, making these, pro Black Lives statements on Facebook and putting the black thing up on their profile picture yesterday and stuff. And, and how that is so normal and typical to have that kind of disconnect, but it doesn't help people of color trust institutions anymore. It's like just more of the same gaslighting, disconnect.
Yes, to that. I think, God, there's so much here, but a Black male actor that I know posted some stuff that really also, to your point, what you're saying, Rami, was another veil piercing white lady moment of, he was like, look, you guys can uplift and you can support and you can do all the things, and I want you to and you need to, and I'm never not going to be Black.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always going to be there in my head. And I'm a Black man too, he was saying. So did that lady cross the street because she's cold or because I'm Black? Did I not get served in this restaurant because I'm Black or because they were slow that day? He's like, that's the in my head part that's based on the history of time. All the history of time. That's not going anywhere.
History of time and present moment. Like, there hasn't been enough proof that anything has shifted.
Yeah.
It is wonderful to see so many white people seeming like I said, more white people seeming to wake up, like you're talking about. That's really exciting. It's great. And on social media, I have white friends who are making these statements like, okay, white friends, don't bother any Black folks. Like, if you have any questions, come to me, here's some information, here's some more information. It's great because a lot of people are doing what we've been asking white people to do, which is educate yourselves, stop making me do the labor,
Yes.
So I am seeing that happen more, and you're talking about it. You feel an awakening that is a new awakening for you, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I that's very exciting. And also,
you're going to have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, who knows if you can actually trust or have actual trust in. It's like, it makes me think of it, just for the sake of a metaphor, like in a relationship, back to that kind of metaphor that we're looking at, is like, when trust is broken, a person can say words that are like, I fully get it. Here's what I did wrong. I own it. I won't do this, or this again, and I will do this, and this. But until all of that occurs in real time on the body, in the moment, the new behaviors, the not doing that thing, the new, how can you have trust in the person? Because trust doesn't happen just because you say nice words. Trust happens because behavior changes.
Or systems change.
And systems change. But those are behaviors. Like, systems are made up of behaviors in real time. Anyway, so that. Yeah. And that does bring me to another question I have for you two as a couple, I say in quotes. I don't know what to say.
Oh boy. No, but Katie, so there's a lot of my friends don't even know about Cass. It's like,
really?
Yeah. Because, they're in New York or whatever, and I'm not there, and there's no reason, because we're not interacting or doing co-supportive work every day. Whereas I'm still in the context where everybody was introduced to us.
Right.
As an us.
That makes sense.
Although you really do have more and more people in your life that I've never met.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I saw at your birthday party.
Right. And we also present to each other, to the world, differently.
How so? How do you present?
I think I'm more upfront with my, especially if I'm flirting or maybe something's going on relationally. I'm more forward-footed with, by the way, I am legally married and I have this person who is my life partner, and we can talk about what that actually means, but I don't want you to come into this blind. So I'm especially with romantic things, because people will be like, oh, you lied to me. That's what I assume.
So versus Rami, how do you go into things, if you're open to sharing that?
I think it's on a case-by-case basis, like how soon I say I'm legally married.
And that's just different ways of navigating the world, I think. I place no judgment on why or how for that. That's just,
It's also hard on my identity to have this attachment to this white guy.
a straight white man.
Yeah. It's a lot to explain to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit.
As a queer,
wow.
gender fluid person of color, yeah, that's to attach to all the things that are the things.
The problems of this world coming mostly from white men.
I'll accept that.
Mostly, not always, but a lot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, then I could see how. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying how you present.
Who? Oh,
me?
No,
weren't you? No, sorry.
We got it. I think we got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but okay. So my other question was going to be about: did you guys, or do you guys ever run into it, just in your relating to each other, racial tension?
That's a good question, but I don't.
That is a good question. Well, I mean, I am Black and white, so I am racial tension. So it's good to have an editor, huh? Edit out these pauses.
Oh, you're fine.
So I mean, I can say what I told people way back at our wedding so many years ago, which is
18 years ago. 17, 18 years ago.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe not at our wedding. When I was first telling people about our relationship, that too took a little while. I was really out at that time. And most of the people in my social and artistic life were lesbians of color, women of color, not lesbians, women of color.
Just to clarify, when you say you were really out, you were out as a lesbian.
Yes.
At that time.
Okay.
In the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like and I'm like, obviously I wasn't doing theater at that moment, or else that wouldn't have been the case, because the theater world has plenty of white people in it. But at the time I wasn't really doing theater. I was doing more dance at that moment.
Okay.
Anyway, so why am I saying this? Oh yeah. So because I'm so light skinned, it's hard, like who I'm standing next to in public kind of determines how people see me, because of my particular look, how this combination of features came out. So so like I've had periods of time where I just where I wouldn't be in public with my white friend or whatever. I wouldn't not, but I'd be really uncomfortable. Like I don't want to be seen in public because that means this about me, whatever. And so I've as like many mixed race people, I had many years of trying to manage my identity, my presentation, because it's just fraught. It's a lot. And so when Cassidy and I got together, we never, as we've said a couple times, we never fought or had arguments. We never had conflict between us. I had plenty of conflict with the world. Cassidy was always at my side with me as I dealt with my conflicts with the world and my identity. I don't think, and we've had, I don't know, Cass, what do you?
I think there's a combination of we avoided it or it didn't happen, but also just to own my part in our whole relationship, there is an aspect of suppression of conflict in the way I operate. So I would say the right things to avoid those conflicts, or I would say, yep, and just, soothe rather than necessarily going conflict, like leaning into the conflict in order to navigate it. So there may have been, I think it's all those things. I think, yes, for the most part, we didn't actively have racial tension between us that we engaged with. Of course it exists.
Well put. Well said.
Yeah.
We are two conflict avoidant humans.
Yeah. It existed, of course, because we fucking live in this world. We are also very kind people, both of us. So if whatever was there, we navigated with love and tenderness and care.
And curiosity.
But I'll bet you there was some avoidance like hell too. I'm sure of it.
Fair enough. Yes. Yeah.
And that's on me as far as I'm concerned, but.
Yeah, no, you're right. I can't believe I forgot this. When we first got together, I was shocked because his behavior was his energy and behavior in subtle ways that are even hard for me to explain.
Yeah.
So different than all these women of color that I was used to being around. I just I cried. I needed to get away. Like he and his dear friend, who is also my good friend, these two white guys who are wonderful, like their energy together felt so competitive to me. And I was like, I chose this.
Yeah.
And I had to really get used to that energy, which now I have adopted. Now I have learned from the white man. I have adopted this white man behavior, and I've made it my own. It's part of my palette now.
Wait, which particular behavior? We're talking about combative debating?
No, not combative. I don't think. Is it?
It sounds like the
debating.
sort of one-upman energy.
Yeah, it feels competitive. But it's not technically competitive. There's no actual competition, technical competition happening. Energy is competitive.
This is, I think you're touching on, this is the thing I have work to do with myself, which is that, and like, I think Cass, this touches on the thing you and I've talked about recently with regard to you and Sam in
the
improv rehearsal, where I'll be like, what are they doing right now? They're talking on top of each other and trying to, I'm funnier, I'm funnier, I'm funnier, I'm funnier. It feels like a competition. Whereas like in an improv scene that, from my point of view, works well, people are being heard. So like I talk and then you talk and then I talk. And so we can hear each other. But Sam and Cassidy have a way, they hear each other. Yeah. But it's like, ba, 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 ba. And I'm like, I can't participate in this. There's no, I would have to like, the way I was saying it to Cassie, or the way I think of it is sometimes I feel like I would have to get a sharp, tall metal thing to like penetrate in there and pry them apart so that I could say any words. And like, it's,
And they're probably like, yeah, get that penetrative metal thing in there. Come on, let's go. Yes.
I know. And that, I mean, now I'm hearing it too. And I'm like, this is maybe part of my white lady fragility thing too, is like, girl, sometimes you gotta do that. And like, but see, it's also complicated by the fact that as a woman, there have been so many times in my life where bringing that energy to a table, any table, it's only created problems. Everybody's got feelings about a lady who's like, here's my strong penetrative energy. People are like, oh, no, don't hire her again. Ooh, combative. No. So like I've learned all this healing technique about listening and spaciousness and how to be love and femininity. So now I'm in so now like other people do the penetrative thing and I'm like, we can, that's okay. You can, could I, because I've had so much, no, bad girl, no. And what's tricky about that is some of the thing that I sort of like got rid of or like worked with in myself needed to go because it was not cool. It was not aligned. It was not kind. It was not good. It was not helping anyone, including myself. But some of it was. But it's very hard to piece apart. This is a thing that comes up for me in therapy all the time. Healthy aggression. Like, when is your aggression just fine? Like, my therapist will frequently say to me, so like I'll be guilty about something and she'll be like, oh, so you mean you had appropriate anger with your student who was being a dick? Ooh. And I'll be like, yes. And she'll be like, yeah, that's called healthy aggression. And I'll be like, but how do you know? You weren't there. Maybe I was trying to be punishing and vengeful of that person. And she'll say to me, were you trying to be punishing and vengeful of them? And I'll go, actually, no, they were making everybody's life hard. It wasn't working. And I asked them to stop in a strong way. And then they did. And then things worked better. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, healthy aggression.
But you still have to gas off from that.
From
like that, it feels so uncomfortable for you on the inside. You still have to like, oh my God, go through all the.
Yes.
Yeah.
After that class, there's a class I teach at Stanford once a week, which is full of, it's in the continuing studies department. So it's all like wealthy Palo Alto folks who have a lot of money to spend and are like, I'm retired or I'm a tech engineer, or I'm a CEO of a thing and I want to be funny now. And they're older white men a lot who are like, I already know all this. Who's this little lady in the front room? And ooh, that does not go over well with me. And so, but navigating it, even when I do my very, very best, and I see myself as like, I'm sort of like a pole for the room, for the women in the room, where I'm like, this woman who is clearly cowering in fear of the white guy next to her, I'm going to show her, I'm going to model strength in like standing back up to this white guy. And I'm watching her be like, oh, you can do that? And I feel good about that. And I feel good about myself and I have self-esteem. But you're right. I leave that room. And I mean, that's the moment where I'm always like, eat pizza, drink alcohol, brownies. Like I want to put something palliative in my body because the intensity of the interaction was so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being a human being is intense. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground, everybody. I'm like, so I guess you're here, Rami. Do you have questions for the Akashic?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And it's funny because had this come up like a few months ago, I would have asked questions directly about my relationship with Cassidy, but I'm not sure I need to now.
Mm-hmm.
Of
That's
course,
fine with me.
You know, if things come up, I'm sure they would be interesting. But I do have a question. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let me open I'm just on my desktop opening the.
Oh God, I hope I don't regret all this.
Oh.
Ah.
Wow. That's so interesting too. We could talk about that for a long time. Like transparency, visibility, being public. Like there's so much in that, right? There's so much there. Just looking at everybody's individual ways that we each handle what we say and don't say publicly and why we do. We could just talk about that. I think it's so juicy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like someone recently kind of challenged me on why I don't tell people in the theater world my age. They're like, don't you have self-esteem and don't you love yourself? And I was like, dude, it's not about do I love myself. I'm good with my age. These fuckers judge you based on, they make decisions in their little minds when you tell them your age. So I'm keeping this under wraps for that. This was like a couple years ago when I was caring more about theater. But anyway, that's just one example of like a reason you might make something private that people would then decide was for another reason, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot there. Okay, let me open this prayer. I'm like, I could talk about that forever. Okay, moving this over here. Here we go. So, okay, the dog is deeply asleep in my lap, but also on my arms. I gotta move you, small dog. I'm sorry. Very sad, I know. Okay, so I'll talk us through. If you're ready to go now, we can hop on in. Okay. So, and I guess I just feel the need to say, I don't think you need me to say this, but I also just want to say that, like, I think the way you're contextualizing everything and explaining what your dynamics are with Cassidy, I don't think they will create limitations for you.
Cool.
That's just my little point of view there.
Nice.
Okay. So, yeah, so you've heard the podcast, so you know how this goes, but I'll just talk us through a little brief visualization, and then you'll hear me say the first part of the record's prayer out loud, and then I'll say, okay, now I'm going quiet for a moment. I'll say it again internally, get connected more deeply. Then I'll let you know the records are open. And then, you know, as you've probably heard before, sometimes like information or energy wants to come through right away. And I'll just ask them, like, do we start with this information and energy, or do we start with Rami's questions? And I try to just follow. So yeah, that's how we'll go. And if at any point you have questions or need to stop or didn't hear me, just feel free. All right, so we're going to close our eyes just for a moment and we'll take a couple deep breaths into the low belly, allowing the weight of the body to be held up by the chair itself that we sit in, each of us individually, giving up the need to hold our own body strength up and surrendering the physical form as a door opener to surrendering our hearts to the divine, so we can hear from the subtler realms. We'll take a couple more conscious breaths into the low belly, allowing the low belly to expand as we inhale and release as we exhale. Feeling the bottoms of each foot now, in contact with the earth below, even if it's through a shoe or a sock. Okay, seeing, imagining, visualizing, allowing there to be a little foot chakra at the bottom of each foot opening now, such that the bottoms of the feet become a little portal between the electromagnetic energy of the earth and the electromagnetic energy of your body. Ya Shafi Alalim. We'll see, imagine, allow some roots. I like to say like 500 roots coming out of your left foot, 500 roots coming out of your right foot, energetic spiritual roots that grow now into the earth. Is this required? Yes. Okay. So those roots grow deep and deep, many miles down into the planet. Through the open portal of the bottoms of your feet, just through our intention and our visualization. And then we're going to look at, as those roots continue to extend into the earth, miles and miles down, gripping into the soil, becoming conduits of receptivity of spiritual earth energy. Simultaneously, we're going to visualize, imagine, allow there to be a grounding cord shooting from the base of our spines to the center of the planet, about 1.5 feet wide, all the way to the center of the earth. And as that grounding cord extends, we're going to imagine, visualize, allow there to be spiritual energy coming up from the soul of Sophia Gaia, her essence that she ever abundantly is giving, flowing up through that grounding cord now, into our individual root chakras, splitting off into each hip, splitting into each quad, flowing down the quadriceps, past the glutes, through the hamstrings, into the knees, into the shins and calves, into the ankles and feet, flowing down into the roots, down into the earth, down and down and down. Nice work, creating a nice fluid tripod grounding structure. Earth to root, root to feet, feet to earth. And then we'll just see, visualize, imagine, allow there to be a 3-dimensional balloon or kite, a replica of your physical form, a Rami replica in 3-dimensionality, floating above your head, with a kite tail extending from the base of that kite or balloon, the tail of which now we visualize dropping through the top of your actual physical head, into your throat, into your chest and heart, the upper belly, the mid belly, the low belly, down through the root chakra into the grounding cord, and it passes all the way instantaneously to the center of the earth. When it hits the center of the earth, the gravity there begins to pull that kite tail down. And as it does so, the kite floating above your head, containing all the dissociated aspects of self that we tend not to be in touch with, or that we sometimes cannot be in touch with, that kite containing those dissociated pieces begins to drop into your physical form. Allah. Ya Shafi. Allah. And so the feet of the kite drop into your feet. Yes, the shins and calves of the kite drop into your shins and calves. The quads and hamstrings, knees, pelvic floor, hips, glutes, genitals, belly, sides of the body, back of the body, spinal column, the upper torso, the mid torso, the chest and shoulders, the armpits, the arms, the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, the palms, the fingertips, the neck, the tongue, the jaw, the nose, eyes, forehead, head, ears, all filling in now with the 3-dimensional balloon or kite shaped like you. Taking one last quick look at the tail of the kite, tightening, strengthening to the center of the earth, allowing us to be strongly rooted here and now. And Rami, what is your full legal name that shows up on your driver's license?
Gabrielle Janine Margron.
Gabrielle Janine Margron. I got it. All right. And keeping these ideas alive, these images real for ourselves, the grounding cord present, we open with this prayer now. By the power of the divine light within all of us, come, Holy Spirit, Spirit of light, Spirit of truth, for the highest good of all. throughout time. Fill our hearts with divine love as I humbly ask permission to open the divine portal to the highest realm of the Akashic records for Gabrielle Janine Margron. Akashic beings of light, guide Gabrielle Janine Margron to the deepest truth of their being, releasing any blocks and restrictions to their abundance and highest good. Lords of the Akashic records, assist Gabrielle Janine Margron to fully embody their soul's light, to fulfill their soul's purposes, and to heal any accumulated karma. Surround Gabrielle Janine Margron with the enlightenment and wisdom of their masters, teachers, and loved ones. Clearly direct Gabrielle Janine Margron's perspective and actions to those that manifest their divine plan. And I'll just go quiet for a moment here. Okay, free of all resistance, judgment, and fear. We're now filled with divine love and the records are now open. Allah. So, wow. First things first here, I'll just briefly say what I'm being shown. Record keepers, do you have anything specific to offer for Rami? Are we open? Yes. Okay. I'd like to ask you to deepen me as deeply into Rami's. Can I refer to Rami as Rami? Yes. As into Rami's Akashic records as possible. Allah. So that the information and the healing that desires to come through, that is for the highest good, can do so with total ease through me, without me in the way. Yeah. And so I just briefly here, the first thing that comes, Rami, is just this awareness that happened when we've worked together at least once before. I know that. The depth of your spiritual connection, like it's like being with you in this way in your records here. It's like I step into the essence of spirit itself. And there's like nothing in the way of the essence of spirit getting to exist in your being, in a sort of basic way, just in your fundamental functioning. And that what they're telling me is that part of that is a function of that which you described earlier with regard to your mother and how she taught you, or how she carried this energy of non-judgment and non-duality. There just wasn't judgment and there wasn't duality. And then how you were able, the being that you were, the cells of your being were so able, ready, open, and available to internalize the spaciousness of that incarnation as we know it, being called your mother. Your ability to for the cells of your being to say, oh yes, okay, good, open, non-judgment, non-dualism, got it, here I am, is stunning from a spiritual perspective. It feels like, what a gift. You're just a walking embodiment of non-dual, non-judgment. It's a rare energy field to step into from my personal experience that is just this open. So there's that reflection. That's all that is. And so I'm wondering, do the record keepers have it? No, they're just like, okay, what questions do you have?
I feel greedy for getting the opportunity to have you open my records again for a second time. Anyway, I my whole life have felt like a healer and been aware of, and have felt like a peacemaker. And that has been very important to me since I was a little kid. Peacemaking, it's huge part of my identity. And I have this sense that's something that I need to learn in this life. And I've had this sense for a long time, since I was a teenager or whatever, that I'm here because I need to learn how to fight. Like, I need to learn how to stand up for myself, for other people. And I've been working on that. And for the last few years, for whatever reason, I've been sort of jokingly, sort of seriously saying that I'm in warrior training. And I also have often had the experience of, when I'm in African diaspora religious situations, of people reading me and telling me that the orishas or loa or vodou that guide me are some warriors. And I've
Mm-hmm.
often had readings where without me, like me just sitting there smiling, whatever, and the person doing the reading will be like, you need to control your anger. You have a lot of anger inside you. You have a volcano inside of you. And I'd be like, I'm just sitting here. What? And so I'm really curious. I'm really curious about this. I have a general question about what that's about, where
Mm-hmm.
I'm at with that, how I can work on that. And also like, what is my role in the fucking revolution if we
Yeah.
are hopefully having one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. I get it.
Because I hate conflict. So like I want to learn to fight, but it's so hard. It's so
Yep.
uncomfortable.
Okay. So let me straight channel because it's very clear to me what they're showing me. Now let me see how they want to language it. This is from our perspective, beloved, from as your record keepers here in the Akasha, right? And remember, we're just us, and this is just one moment in time. Whatever resonates, follow that. Now, that being said, here's the deal. The warriors here are your guides, your teammates, your ancestors, your history. There is warrior level ability here. But what you have to get is that this peacemaking thing is your gift. We would frame it quite differently. I have to learn to fight. Not you. No, you're going to require a warrior level amount of willingness to show up for your community as a peacemaker. In other words, it's going to feel warrior level difficult to come out in the world and say, would anyone like to find some peace around this? Because I could help you with that. And that's where the warriorness is relevant for you. It's not that you yourself need to get better at fighting per se. It's more along the lines of how much warrior courage and strength will it require on your part to show up for the revolution on the side of peacemaking, keeping in mind that peacemaking, some of the first steps of peacemaking are, as you said earlier, get off gassing or gassing off energies that have been repressed. And so you have an ability to create spaces for other people to gas off that which they need to gas off. And you have an ability to, once that has been gassed off, reground people into the energy of love, unity, oneness, and peace. For you to become a warrior in the traditional sense would be antithetical to your being and everything else we've said. The warrior level bravery and courage to step out as a peacemaker in this context is high. But what you will come to understand, and what you know already, is you're never, as a peacemaker, saying to human beings, you shouldn't feel how you feel. You're saying, you feel how you feel. I honor it. Say it, feel it, do it. And then what? And your gift that you carry is in how to help people move into the and then what. So in terms of when you say, what is my role in the revolution? It's to hold space in this way we're describing. Okay, Katie talking now. Like the images they're showing me are like, let's see, you want me to articulate that? Yes, the images are like you're leading groups of people in rooms through conversation, dialogue, transformation, healing. You're speaking at a podium to lots and lots of people about, and the phrase Martin Luther King comes with regard to the style of your speaking. Remember when Martin Luther King spoke, he was clear and strong and peaceful. Yes? So this is your capacity. You have the capacity to stand in front of the groups of people and say, listen, anger, yes, go. Everybody go, anger, go. And then they go. And then you go, now feel this. Peace, love, harmony, oneness. And then the anger turns to grief. And then the tears are flowing. And then people are hugging. And then you say, now there's even another step after grief. Here's the energetic vibration of love, peace, mercy. And they go, oh my God, under my grief is oneness. But what is so difficult about this moment in time for humanity is the degree of repression of the first stage of that process is so profound that there is a Much needed gassing off, as you say. Much needed. Widespread. Deep gassing off. So, last piece, what you'll want to understand, beloved, is that your work, what you have to offer, it is subtle and it is sophisticated, and not everyone wants it. There will be many people who say, fuck you, we should just burn it all down, and fuck you for being peaceful, and fuck you. There are always people saying fuck you to everybody, and that's a bummer. That's where the warrior level willingness to be who you are comes into play. And then there will be throngs of people begging, pleading, yearning for what you have to offer. It just may not be this very moment that it's the time, but it's coming soon, and you'll know when, and you'll have fear about it, and you'll go to your community and your support systems to deal with your fear, and you'll walk through that fear. And so it is. Okay. Thoughts, questions, responses, anything?
Do the I would love any advice about any kind of tangible, specific things that I can do to aid my process toward, that.
Where are you now in that process?
Where am I now? Let's see. So in the image that you presented, like the thoughts that came up or one, I mean, despite the fact that I'm a performer, I don't feel like I am articulate as that person standing in front of a microphone leading people toward peace.
Okay.
That's one thing.
Okay.
I don't feel like I have enough of the sort of like conflict resolution training that's so fucking useful that I could figure out how to get. And yeah, I'm surrounded by like people who say that, like we've been peaceful, that didn't work, that fucking didn't work.
Yeah.
And white people are always bringing up Martin Luther King because he's safe, even though he was so forceful and strong, but those aren't the qualities about him that white people tend to talk about,
Right, of course.
They talk about the safe parts of his message,
Yeah.
But anyway, but I'm surrounded by people who are saying like, fuck that, we're done. It didn't work. It's not working. It's time for the fight, and that I do know that I'm a peacemaker. I know it with every like inch of my being. And it gets me into trouble when I need to learn how and when it's appropriate to say what, because like there are times when I defend whoever's not in the room, and sometimes that person shouldn't actually be defended in the moment because that's not the most useful thing in that moment, like stuff like that. But like I can't help myself. It is my instinct to do that. I can't help myself, but like my natural instinct is that.
Absolutely.
Those are some thoughts. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, this is helpful. Let's see what they bring here. Let me just straight channel, because my mind there's a lot with the mind, but let's see what they offer in this just direct way here. So, that's interesting. They're saying it's like this. Look, the fight is occurring. The fires are lit, and they will continue to be lit. You don't have to worry about the fight is happening. So if you feel on any given day, like go outside and be part of the fight, go ahead. And there's nothing wrong with you because fight is not your impulse. In other words, the fight is alive. The fight is occurring for sure. Now, okay, so let that settle, they're saying. Not everybody's role in a revolution is the same.
Yeah.
Okay. So the people who come to the person who says, look, are you looking for more peace around this inside yourself? Cool. I have some. You want it? Here you go. Let's do this. That person is incredibly valuable to those people who desire that thing. Will you be able to please everyone? Definitely not.
That's very hard.
Do they even? Correct. Correct. But that is your work.
Yeah.
That is your work, is letting go of the need to please them all. because you cannot. I mean, Maya Angelou said, the death of your life purpose and your dharma, we're adding the word dharma here, is in your attempts to please everyone all the time. She said, you can't please everyone all the time. You can only please some of the people some of the time, and not even them. So really, this is about, are you willing? Here's the question. Are you willing to serve God? Or another way to frame that is, are you willing to serve your dharma? Are you willing to serve your soul's purpose? Are you willing to be in alignment with your work? And if the answer is actually yes, this is your work to do to get ready for that, is sit with your discomfort around people not liking you, some people, and let that gas off over and over and over again. And in the meantime, as you're doing that, you take a little step, tiny baby steps, tiny baby steps, one day at a time, teeny tiny step at a time in the peacemaking effort. Here comes another example of ways this might show up. So let's say a bunch of people go out to the front lines and yell and burn things down, or just yell or chant, whatever happens. They're out there, they're doing the fight thing, and they do it for 6 hours, and then they're hot and tired. They want to come to your house to have iced tea and air conditioning, metaphorically speaking, because they know that how they feel when they're with you. Now is the time for peace, they, in some voice inside of them says. So we'll go to Rami now. You see, you play a role for a specific moment in time in people's lives. You can't please all the people all the time. You can serve many people at many times. Does this make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So it's almost like you can even say, yes, my brothers and sisters, fight. If you need to fight, fight. I support you, fight. And I'll be here in this cool room with the lemonade and ice water when you're ready or desire to grieve with me, and then find your light and find your center, so that tomorrow, the way you fight, you go out there again to picket or burn things or whatever, the way you fight might be a little more centered in love and peace. And then the fight might look ever so slightly different, because I had your back in my peaceful way while you were fighting. So no one ever needs to be made wrong in their way of expressing, in their gassing off, in their protest style. It's simply you playing the role you play within the panoply of roles all people are playing. And we'd like to offer one other piece, if we may, which is the only way judgment functions in your reality, beloved, is against yourself. Which is so common for empaths and healers. Peacemakers, you're never going to judge people or create separation except within you. I'm too peaceful. Oh, okay. Who said? And we understand, given the givens and given the context. We fully understand. Now, there was a specific question in there. Did that get answered, or did you want to?
I'm not sure.
Do you have more?
Was there a specific question?
I think you were asking for a concrete sense of what
like things that can help me study, prepare. Yeah.
Study, prepare, and or deal with your own process around the actual pain of what's occurring.
Yes, that.
Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Good question. It's kind of a bunch of different questions. So I guess study, prepare. Help me understand if this is what you're at.
Action items. Are there actionable things I can do to help me with any of those things?
Okay, let's take them one at a time. So first, let's look at your personal process. What are the action items for your personal process? Right?
Yeah.
We are inclined to ask you first, what are you already doing?
I am, some days, not much. Some days I am numbing out a bit. Some days I am putting my bare feet in the ground, on the ground in the backyard, and sitting in the sun. And some days it's like meditation, and some days it's like a self-guided prayer where I'm talking out loud. I'm guiding myself. I'm eating very good food. and drinking enough water.
Okay, great. Okay. We would encourage, in addition, contact in your body with your emotions as they run through the gamut of the forms they will take in any given day. In other words, we're not suggesting to be run by the emotions, but to own them a little more consciously. Right now, I'm feeling sad. Right now, I'm feeling angry. Right now, I'm feeling confused. Right now, I'm, a labeling. Let's see. Do you have someone you work with, like a therapist or a healer right now?
I don't.
Okay. That would be one way to do this, is to have a weekly place you're going for the saying of the feelings. Because here's the paradox, right? And you get this in the context of 9 Enneagram, is the gift of the 9 can also, of course, be the challenge of the 9, as with all the numbers, where we can as 9s, or you can as 9s, use peace as an avoidance tactic, right?
Yeah.
From feeling. So we encourage you, we validate for you. It's not required that you swing all the way into warriordom, and that you swing a little into feelingdom and naming, owning, and grieving. In particular, grieving feels quite relevant for you right now. Now, if you can do that on your own through journaling and sitting and naming your feelings throughout a day, do that. If, like, you could have a journal with you and write it down every time. But if the way you do that is through community groups where you all sit and name your feelings in a circle and grieve together, do that. If you do it best in a therapeutic environment, do that. You see?
Yeah.
That the grieving and the being with the feelings creates language for you around, language and empathy around every single piece of the journey. People who trust a peacemaker, they trust a peacemaker who says, I feel just like you, and I'm finding peace like this.
Mm-hmm.
So to have that first part in place, you've got to be articulate about all the feelings. So the feelings is the practice in this case. How does that land?
That sounds right.
Yeah, okay. There's a kind of like Tauran, it may not literally be Tauran, but like Taurus, like earthliness that you have, it's a real gift of yours. And it can be in the same way that a boulder is rooted in the ground and going nowhere, hooray, it's not shaken by the earthquake. And if it has to go to the grocery store, you understand. Okay, how does that land? Do you have other questions? What else?
So the boulder thing is that sometimes it's hard to move me. Is that what or that it's hard?
Okay, Tauran, what is that? Not that it's hard to move you per se, but simply that in the same way that, like, I don't know, let's say you have the choice between go to your journal and write down every feeling you had in a 24-hour period and feel that, or lay in the sand. You're going to want to lay in the sand.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that's all. So that's the challenge, is like, okay, I got to feel the feelings and then lay in the sand.
Right. That's
all.
I mean, what you were bringing up the 9 Enneagram is that the laziness of the 9 is laziness towards the self and toward spiritually lazy, or like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what remains unresolved for you in this conversation, and or what questions remain? And we've got about 10 minutes to wrap up. I know that puts a little pressure on it, but
I mean, I've gotten so much already that I really appreciate, So I asked about actionable items, and I got the one about a regular thing like therapy of one kind or another that will be useful for keeping me in touch, getting me in touch with feelings regularly.
okay. Yes. Great. Okay, good. Thank you. Actionable items. So record keepers for Rami, beyond that, they're like, nope, that's it for now. Because here's why. the work you do in therapy, and actually they're leaning kind of heavily in that direction.
I feel that
if you
too.
want their particular, right? I mean, the work you're going to do for yourself in therapy will lay a kind of understanding, a foundational understanding within yourself that will make the articulation you were speaking of struggling with earlier easier for you, because you will have the lived experience from the therapeutic dynamic of exactly what everyone in the world is living through. So first you have to live through that, experience that, then the training required will reveal itself and become apparent. And yes, there will be a kind of training, but it will become apparent. It will be clear. It may even be suggested by the therapist. You say to the therapist at some point, how do I be a peacemaker? How do I hold space? What is the structure of this? Like, what form of it? How do I, and they go, oh, look at this group is happening. Study this. You can learn the blah, 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 like that. But that's not for now. Okay.
So then
What
that's
else?
great. Then, so this is a very specific question. Do I look for a therapist in California or in New York? I know it's all Zoom right now, but at some point it won't be. And I don't know where I'll be.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So record keepers, is it in Rami's highest good to look for a California person? That's a yes. Is it in Rami's to New York? No. I do get California, which is odd. I'm going to ask another related question out loud. So given what I, Katie Rubin, know about some of the things that coming in California, which we can talk about another time, why California? Let me just listen here. Okay, this is about the specific individual resonating really well for you and with you, and they just happen to be Californian. They just happen to be here. And so this person or people, this person, you're just going to feel it. It's going to feel right. It's going to click in. You're going to love it. You're going to actually love it. Love it. Like, love it. Like that. Like, I love it. Like a pig in shit, they're saying. So it's just about that person is here. And, when you're leaving, you will be able to maintain connection through Zoom if required, or other platforms of that nature.
How do I find this person I'm going to love?
Well, Google. Ask, here's the real thing. So Google it, but also make a prayerful request. And we're doing this with you right now, actually, so they're saying, feel into your belly for the desire to find someone that you love, that feels where you feel incredibly seen, heard, and understood, and where integration of your own pain feels very possible and doable in the presence of this individual. You want to feel the desire for that in your belly, and from the center of that desire, meaning as you sit with that desire, make a prayerful request. Oh God, or whatever you like to call the great whatever, please bring me this person. This person, they're saying to me, you can even say it like that. Bring me this person, like that singular individual. In some cases, the guidance is like, don't be too specific and be open to this, there's option. No, for you, it's like, there's a person. Bring me that person. And you'll know, don't doubt, you'll know. How will you know? Because you'll feel it in your gut, in the low belly, okay? Above the pelvic floor, below the belly button, you'll be like, there's like it's a feeling of like, when you plug a hose, like if you imagine plugging a hose into a wall socket and it just fits and it goes kukunk. And the moment it locks in, the air can flow through the air conditioner hose, or the water can flow through the hose. It'll feel like that in your gut. It won't be something in your mind. And you'll only doubt if you go to your mind about it. Okay.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Prayerful intention from the space of desire with clarity for that person. Please bring this person to me now, and pray, pray, pray until you feel some experiences happening in the prayer, and then get on the internet.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we are at the end here. Any last nuggets? No. Okay. Anything from the record keepers? They're like, no, it's all been said. Remember how we started this with Katie acknowledging just the vast spaciousness of your energy field as it exists organically in and of itself, just already all the time. That kind of energy field is not here to be anything but that. Yes, it can communicate. Yes, it can be brave. Yes, it can, in a warrior-like fashion, get out there and speak and be heard. But it doesn't have to, it can't be a war-like quality because it isn't that. It is the space of oneness. You are the space of oneness. Many people, by the way, spend their entire lives trying to get to that. You just are it. And now it's your gift to employ in the service of the collective. I mean, all right. So thank you so much, Rami, for being here today. This space of your field is so pleasant. I don't want to close your records ever. I just want to float here in the blissed out beauty. It's like I'm on a, like, it's how I imagine the Dead Sea feels, like when a sea is full of salt, so much so that you float on top of it and you don't even feel, like when you go to a float place and you don't even feel the temperature of the water, you're just weightless. It's that. So it's like, could I just live here? Thank you, record keepers, lords, masters, and teachers, divine mother, father, all that is, all the beings of light that support Rami's field, that are with Rami on their journey. Thank you for this healing today, this guidance, this information. Thank you for the gift for me and us and those of us who feel these energies to get to experience Rami's soul level frequency. What a gift indeed. I ask that you return Gabrielle Janine, I can't read my own handwriting. Gabrielle Janine Margren's energy to themselves now. All of Gabrielle Janine Margren's energy back to themselves. Yes. Allah. The divine portal and the Akashic records for Gabrielle Janine Margren are now closed. Amen. The divine portal and the Akashic records for Gabrielle Janine Margren are now closed. Amen. What a bummer. The divine portal and the Akashic records for Gabrielle Janine Margren are now closed. Amen. Wah, wah. Katie Rubin's energy. It's so distinct, the transition, that I'm like, well, that's a fucking bummer. All right.
Look, Katie, you're just used to your energy. We all kind of like it, too.
I know. I was just going to say that. I'm with this thing all the fucking time. Oh my gosh, Rami, thank you so much.
I thank you so much. I'm so happy and honored to have the opportunity to do this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's so my pleasure. It's just so my pleasure. And I'm just honored. And it's also like, I'm so happy we got you here too, just on the sort of Cass and I being friends a long time and hearing his side of the story of your lives and getting to hear more from you and just the gift that conversation is for people. I really believe in it. So I'm just excited. Thank you on that level. Okay, right. Well, I'm going to go float out into my life.
Do I go away now so you guys can do your little chat?
Nah. I feel like you're as much part of this podcast as I am at this point. It's nice it's been really awesome just to be here and to share this. Rami listens to the podcast religiously, by the way.
True. Religiously.
That's so cool.
I don't know if that's the right word, but
it's kind of the right word though, right? I mean, yeah.
They often get to it before I do. They've listened to the new episode before I have. Yeah. And that means the fucking world to me. I'll be honest. That's the stamp of approval. Like, all right, we're good. We've done our work.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank everybody. Thank you all. Thank you, Desmond. You guys rock. I'm going to go hydrate and do stuff.
That's the show.
Have a good. That's the show, everybody. Thank you for being here. Good night. I'm hanging up. I like you people.
Here we go. This is us saying goodbye.
What are you asking for? All of the answers? Say what? All of the answers? Yeah, all the answers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you. Please email us with your questions so that we have questions to answer in the Akashic Records. Our email address is allanswerspod@gmail.com. That's allanswerspod@gmail.com. And if you'd like to find us on Facebook or Twitter, it's @allanswerspod, @allanswerspod. Thank you.
I just don't have enough room to save it. I can't.